the rookie, the pawn, the faker level, always just a little bit underneath them, but that's not to say he's a slouch in any regards. He was always a great team player, really well known for things like Lysandra, his Aurelion Sol, and then even going way back to like Season 4 days, he had a lot of great poke champions like Xerath and Azir and things like that.
Well, that's one of the things that Phoenix did not necessarily bring to Goldcoin United, was more of the kind of team play element. He was definitely someone who played for lane phase and then transitioned his advantage. Fly's a little bit of a different style. So as we get into champion select for our first game of the Challenger Series here, we can already see that some of that team utility has been banned away. The Talia in the mid lane, as well as in the top lane, Solo's not going to get a chance to play Shen.
A lot of globals or semi-globals are meta right now. You talk about the Galio, the Talia, the Shen, all this stuff flies around the map trying to make odd man plays. And a lot of that getting targeted out right away. Both these teams are pretty well coordinated in their map play, and that's kind of what separated them from some of the other teams in the Challenger Series last split, so no surprise to see those taken out. eUnited banning away the Thresh, another champion that has risen in popularity recently, and no surprise, GCU forced onto that Zac ban.
Well, of course, you also don't want Thresh, who's very popular in the meta right now, going into the hands of Mad Life coming out from GCU.
Yeah, someone who's kind of made his name on champions with hooks and predictions and all the crazy mechanical outplays you can make with them.
Yeah, well, it does leave open the jungle pick of Elise first off here for eUnited, something DanDy's extremely comfortable on, something that you were telling me before, it's kind of just risen as like that first pick or a ban priority.
Yeah, I think you saw a lot of jungle nerfs come in over the last season. You saw, you know, Rengar and Kha'Zix kind of being OP at the start of the last split, getting knocked down slowly over time. There was the jungle tank, or the tank rework, excuse me, and a couple of junglers in there, but Zac was the one that really came out far ahead of that. He's often, you know, just permaban status on red side, which means the next strongest champion left up after all those AD assassins got hit is now Elise.
No, well, on the opposite side, Goldcoin United are going to be snatching up the Lee Sin for themselves, which you do oftentimes see potentially being picked up as the counter to the Elise. And one of the things that Goldcoin United was definitely always very synergistic with was the synergy between Santorin and Mad Life. Once they got out of lane phase, it was really that core duo of them being able to be mobile around the map, place wards down, and put them into the successful siege situations. Lee Sin's extremely mobile and has a lot of wards on his side as well.
And I think that's one of the things you could sometimes over the course of the last split criticize Santorin for, was being a little too slow. He famously had a Rengar game where I don't think he ulted for the first 20 minutes of the game. Lee Sin, you need to make a little bit more action happen because he does tend to fall off in the late game. So hopefully we get to see that a little bit more aggression out of him. That said, in the promo tourney when he was up against Lyra, arguably the best jungler in NA, he was able to match up decently well. Still getting outperformed, but not to the point where you thought it was this horrible mismatch between the two teams.
He had some very good Graves performances. We'll see if he's able to replicate that here on his Lee Sin. But the Ashe and the Varus have been snatched up. Two of the very popular bot laners being taken, as well as the Karma being one of the few supports that actually, you know, none of the supports besides the Thresh were banned away. So that's going to be kind of still rising to the top of the table. And it looks like GCU are going to wind up picking the Zyra to go against it. No Lulu priority in this one.
Lulu, after the nerfs, kind of got taken down a little bit on the priority list, combined with the Doran shield coming in. People are just less susceptible to poke a little bit, so when you combine that with the nerfs, she's dropped a little bit below Karma for a lot of people's priority. Zyra has stayed up for a lot of people just because she has always been this annoying laning champion, so as long as you're not in a potential all-in matchup where you're potentially against things like that Blitzcrank we were talking about, as well as Rakan and all these other things going up in priority, if you end up in the poke situations between the Karma and her, generally Zyra a little bit favored.
Yeah, now we see a lot of the top lane bans being thrown away. We already have the Galio and the Kennen being targeted away, as well as the Shen in the first ban phase. Now we're really seeing both Goldcoin United and eUnited kind of hanker down on that top lane pool here. The Renekton being banned away, as well as the Fiora. This is very interesting because Licorice was one of the standout players from the Challenger split last time around. He was a very heavy tank player, but since then, he's bolstered his repertoire of champion pool, and he's ground up a lot in solo queue.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that even when we talked to eUnited last split and they were talking about Licorice and we said he's a tank player, they all disagreed and thought that he was a carry player and known to them for things like Rumble and things like that. So, like you said, finally hitting rank 1 in North America, spamming Fiora as one of those champions. They're actually the ones who banned it away this time, but it is surprising to hear like this kind of transition in the player. When he came out initially, it was all about the Maokai and things like that, the Shen. Now trying to get a little more proactive, a little bit more carry potential in his position.
Well, we do wind up seeing that the Gragas is getting picked up for the side of Goldcoin United, and with the Lee Sin already locked in, that means it will be going to solo up on the top side of the map. Gragas, very powerful tank in the top lane, and we'll see what the response is going to be from eUnited, because as we mentioned already, top lane champion pool has been pinched very tightly, although one of the ones that slipped through actually is the Kled.
Yeah, you talk about the potential carry coming in for Licorice here. Kled, a great champion for that. Doesn't dominate 1v1 matchups, but has a lot of gank setup, teamfight utility in the mid and late game, and then once he gets a little bit ahead, he is extremely good at pressuring lanes. So against the Gragas, he's probably going to need some help out of DanDy to get that matchup really going in his favor. So top side going to be pretty interesting to watch this game.
Well, it just kind of plays into what we were talking about with the eUnited. DanDy's going to have the one to really make things happen on the map, and there's not going to be a whole lot of proactivity coming out from the mid lane either, but the Vladimir being locked in here by GBM. Very safe laner, scales eventually into the later stages of the game. Not the biggest playmaker in the early game.
No, mostly you're looking to hold on, like we talked about the Doran Shield coming in. He's a champion that loves starting that early on. You farm out for your first couple levels. Once that Q cooldown gets a little bit lower, you get your first item purchase off. He becomes extremely sticky in lane, hard to force out of there, and then he starts farming up. And once he gets that proto belt, then you can start making the plays. But you see GCU going with the Kassadin to counter it.
Yeah, so they're going to be a bit of a farm matchup themselves. The Kassadin, of course, will be a very powerful late game kind of split pushing threat. You do end up having the Gragas on their side as well, who can make those cross-map TP plays, potentially setting up for a little bit of, well, the challenger favorite of a 1-3-1.
Yeah, a lot of people running the 1-3-1, not just in challenger, but around the world. This time around, GCU doesn't quite have it as well. You obviously are not as happy with the Gragas splitting, but you can obviously still do that. And then when you're going up against the Kled and Vladimir, they are definitely going to be interested in doing that, as well as with the Varus going for wave clear duty mid. But like we said, pretty stable bot lane matchup, mostly utility 80 carries. Top lane is going to be the position to watch with the Kled versus Gragas, as well as hopefully getting to see GBM get up there, or excuse me, DanDy get up there a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on the top side of the map and a lot of proactivity in this jungle matchup. This is game number 1 that we're going to be able to show you guys of the 2017 Challenger Summer Split. A rematch of the finals, eUnited on the blue side, Goldcoin United on the red side. And as we heard from Santorin leading into this game here, he and DanDy are going to be ones that are going to be the players to kind of watch to get the ball rolling in this one. They're both on very active champions. Santorin's looking forward to facing off against DanDy this time around, and we're actually really excited to see what DanDy's going to do coming off of his stint from VG Gaming.
He was one of the highlight players in Season 4 with that Samsung White roster that looked unstoppable at Worlds, he being a key playmaker with Mata over the course of their time together. Now in North American Challenger Series, and you hear that a lot with some of the Challenger Series names recently. They seem like these, Mad Life being another one, these legends of Korea coming over here to compete. So a lot of fun to watch these days in the Challenger Series.
Yeah, he's not the only one that's made it extremely far in the Korean tournament. Fly, as we mentioned, almost made it to Worlds in 2016, was stopped short in the finals by the Rocks Tigers, stopped short in the regional qualifiers by Samsung Galaxy. Both of those teams took them to a full 5-game series. You have Bad Life as support position, and GBM, who, while his reputation may precede him, last time we saw GBM, he wasn't necessarily the carry player. He wasn't necessarily a standout performer for the side of Energy. He was a little bit more of, he had a lot of damage percentage, he had a lot of resources given to him, but he was not a very proactive player. So I'm going to be very interested to see what he's actually changed about his play style coming back to the NACS.
See that kind of annoying top lane invade on the Raptors. You know your jungler, enemy jungler starting there most times, so you get in there, try and steal away a chicken or two, hopefully deny some of that XP away. They are relatively easy and safe to steal, so Licorice grabs one, being a little annoying for Santorin on Lee Sin. And this mid lane matchup is one that was extremely important for how the series played out between these two teams in the spring final, excuse me, because Phoenix was clearly individually better than Fox, and when Gilius came to gank, he was actually able to survive a lot of those ganks 1v2. And that was the big thing, because he was such a dominant player, and eUnited relied on getting snowballs around mid lane. When he was able to survive those, nothing gets going from their team. This time around, both mid laners are not nearly as aggressive as the previous two, so the identity of these two teams and how they play out the early game is going to be completely different, despite a lot of the names being the same.
Almost 31% of his team's damage and 32% of his team's kills is what Phoenix had for Goldcoin United throughout the Challenger split in the spring series. So Fly's got some big shoes to fill for himself here. They've already gone down 0-2 against Tempo Storm on Wednesday, who they themselves have redone a little bit of their roster. So Goldcoin United, the story before was we expected these guys to be like the Cloud9 Challenger going into Spring Split last year, and they were expected to just roll over everybody in the Challenger Series. And they took a lot of time to get going. Of course, they had Mad Life with the visa issues. The lineup took until about week 2 or 3 to actually kind of all come together. And then slowly but surely they went ramped up until they almost made it to the NALCS. We were hoping they would take that momentum and roll with it here, but you know, they're already 0-1 here in the Challenger Series.
Yeah, but they did have some changes, like you said, with Rikara and Fly coming in now. And, you know, Lokodoko, the coach of the team, had tweeted out that he wasn't super concerned with the slow start. They started slow, like you said, last split, and they're more focused on improving over time. So this is a great time, or a chance to prove that you are getting better, bouncing back from that 0-2. Early on, you see Zyra with that push advantage going in, getting some vision down, helping support Santorin on those Krugs during his invade. Meanwhile, DanDy on the top side doing the mirrored path.
Yep, so a little bit of counter jungling going down between these two junglers. They haven't actually met themselves face-to-face in their opposing side junglers quite yet. But you did mention that there's a little bit still they have to ramp up and a little bit still they have to prove on the side of GCU, but the same kind of goes on the side of eUnited. These guys are a core of 3 strong rookies who had 2 veterans that were kind of teaching them the ropes, and we heard from, Deftly and Zazel saying that pretty much Gilius was the brains of the operation, and they followed him even sometimes to a fault in their shot calling. Well, now they're the core of the team, and they're bringing in 2 more veteran players who are a little bit more inexperienced. I don't think GBM and DanDy have actually played together with each other, so the core of these 3 players are going to show that what they took in the spring split and took to the promotion tournament carries over here. And so far, Deftly and Zazel being pushed in a little bit here by the bully lane of the Zyra and the Ashe.
One of the strongest bot lanes you can get on the side of GCU. Constantly pushing that in with Santorin hovering around down the bot side. It's a little scary for DanDy to make his way down there to try and relieve some pressure. Instead getting vision on the top side, and then once you have that vision on the top side, well, I don't see him up here, he's got to be on the bottom somewhere. So the side of eUnited's bot lane is not even trying to push up and contest that wave that much because they know the map has been split by the junglers.
And while the junglers have split the map, looks like eUnited have gotten a little bit of an aggressive shove in the mid lane. We did see Fly going back a little bit earlier on and utilizing his teleport to upgrade to a corrupting potion in addition to that Dark Seal start you see on Cassin. Does wind up landing the slow though, coming out. Does get a little bit of damage back onto GBM. Both junglers though were on opposite sides of the river of mid lane, but both of them deciding to recall, so no more aggression in the mid.
Fly has already gone back once, purchased Corrupting Pot with his Dark Seal, so able to get some of those favorable trades. And he, like you said, mostly looking to farm out. Both of them are, but Caston, especially come the mid and late game, able to hop onto some of the back line of eUnited here. Definitely going to be probably not having his most fun game.
It is not very fun when you can't really run away, but the first time we're going to see Santorin find DanDy, it's going to be a blind face check into that brush, and the blind monk has to ward hop back over the wall. DanDy getting the best of him, level 5 to level 4 currently.
Not really up any combat spell items either. Santorin does have that longsword. DanDy going for the Moby boots early on, wants to get involved somewhere on the map, try and snowball one of these leads. And a couple of these lanes are relatively volatile. We already touched on the top side a little bit with Kled being a great gank assist champion who, if he gets ahead, becomes a menace in the split push later on. Vladimir can go much the same way, where if Kassadin can't constantly chunk him out, which can be generally hard to do versus Vladimir, it starts getting very, very difficult as eUnited moves into that 1-3-1 lane setup if they don't have pressure on either side lane.
Ooh, we see Solo here pretty much out of mana, about half HP as Licorice getting aggressive. Has hit level 6 as a charge into the channel. As DanDy comes in from the side, Cocoon will land. Licorice will dismount, but first blood goes over to eUnited.
Perfectly timed gank there by DanDy right as Solo wants to recall, getting low on mana, hasn't shopped yet. He makes his way up there. Licorice already starts off with a great trade and then hit 6, able to use that to chase down the Gragas who wanted to back off the play, unable to do so. And a good conversion by DanDy. We talk about how this was probably the most important lane to snowball, taking another look at this. They had basically had control of this top side the entire time. He chunked out Lee Sin in the bot side jungle, so he knows it's probably safe to go pathing up here. And a good communication between the two. Licorice saying, I can start this dive off. Pled extremely good at that, gets the dismount, drops turret aggro, and a very clean first kill on what we're hoping to say is a little bit of a new look eUnited here with a little bit more focus on that top side carry, with Licorice hitting that rank 1 in North America in solo queue.
Yeah, the previous play style for eUnited's top laner was he was very good at using the teleport play when Gilius was making something happen in the middle or the bottom side of the map, but he was pretty much relegated to tank play on the top side, only really participated in team fights by utilizing that teleport. But this time around, on a more carry-centric champion, he gets the first successful gank of the game from his jungler in DanDy, and we'll see if he's able to wind up utilizing that advantage quite effectively. He still does have teleport on his side, as though Solo does as well. We see a Hemo play going off and a flash forward from GBM, trying to get the damage out on the fly, but did not look like that Tides of Blood connected quite as much damage as he wanted to.
Able to trade flashes there, though. It's fine for Cassadin, given the fact that his ultimate is basically a really short range, short cooldown flash. So overall, a nice attempt on the all-in. Did hold on to that ignite, so not completely committed to it. Wanting to chunk out for some pressure around the mid lane, and they get it, dropping more vision in that bot side jungle. As Licorice continues to try and bully up on that top side. It seems like eUnited's game plan is make sure bot lane's self-sufficient, just farming out with that Karma and Varus, which, as you can see, even CS down the bot lane, and then allow Licorice room to work on this top side.
Well, bottom lane from eUnited was one of the lanes that we said coming into the Challenger Split playoffs and coming into the promotion tournament, they were extremely self-sufficient. They were A-okay to go 2v2 against pretty much any lane in Challenger, but as soon as they went up against some of the LCS caliber bottom lanes, they struggled and had difficulties kind of surviving that 2v2 matchup. A lot of it was during the pick and ban phase, definitely was put on some B or C tier AD carry pickups like the Sivir back then when it wasn't even necessarily being played at all. Although when he does have these comfort champions like the Varus, like the Caitlyn, like the Ashe, he has been able to go toe-to-toe. And against Rikara, who, as we mentioned, was on GCU, but did not necessarily have the starting job going into the promotion tournament, they seem to be A-okay holding their own despite being shoved in under tower. Relatively even in CS, nobody's died down there.
Definitely was a bit of a curious case during his time in the spring split because they were one of the first bot lanes to really start abusing Caitlyn's Lulu. They were taking bot lane turrets at 6-7 minutes against opponents in the NACS, and then, like you said, they start having to change up their pools a little bit. They go up against some tougher competition, and suddenly he looks completely outclassed. So in some areas, it seemed like he was shining in one of the new carry threats, potentially an AD carry in North America, and another time it's looking like he wasn't quite up to par. And some of that does come down to experience, like you said, his rookie split, and hopefully continuing to improve as his time in the competitive scene goes on.
Well, believe it or not, it's been almost a year since the scouting grounds found Deathly. And this time around, he's on his second Challenger split, so we'll see what he's learned in his time so far on eUnited, and if he can apply it to this split of the Challenger series. But Goldcorn United, eUnited, both of these teams, eUnited got the best of them in the regular split. Goldcorn United eventually wound up taking them down in the finals of the Challenger series. And a lot of the times it was based off that mid lane matchup, but Phoenix no longer on the side of Goldcorn United. A lot has kind of fallen onto the shoulders of Fly, but considering the fact that both these mid laners want to scale, the junglers are really the ones that are being kept in check with this ward control coming out from the side of not only just Madlight, but also Zeyzal and this Karma continuously roaming up. You can already see that while this Caston's trying to roam down in the bottom lane, the Ashe Arrow actually does connect down onto Zeyzal, but Rikara taking a tower shot here. The play was already scattered out because of all this ward coverage, since Santorin and Fly cannot collapse. DanDy's also just already waiting for this.
And that's one of the criticisms that came the side of GCU, was that they struggled in the early game to really find advantages a lot of the time. And they rely on Santorin to make things happen, and if he's not making it happen, it was on Phoenix to just get 1v1 advantages in the mid lane. If both those fell flat, the team struggled to get going. And this time around, somewhat the same case. Obviously, Gold's still extremely close, but neither team making too many aggressive plays. And as the game stalls out, it's really going to be about who can find the right openings here. Both utility bot laners, like we were saying, and two mobile, pretty elusive mid laners. So you can expect both, like we said, AD carries to not have a great time as this game goes later and later.
Well, we see Fly getting a little bit more aggressive now that he's got a blue buff on Caston and continuing to rift walk forward and apply the damage down on the GBM. But Vladimir, as you mentioned, able to do transfusion, sustain himself up A-okay. DanDy waiting in the wings, though. If Fly winds up rift walking back in here, this could be a potential go button for DanDy. There are pings on the side of GCU. They smell that something's up, and Fly's going to wind up going in again. DanDy's already walked away, though, so GBM left all on side.
Fly was watching, he saw DanDy path over top of that ward, kind of right next to Raptor Pit. So he knew that there was no longer a counter gank waiting for him, goes in for the trade, and that's one of those things that can kind of tilt your other team, is they feel like they're camping, waiting for this opening, and then as soon as you go in, it's right after they had left. So hopefully United knew that there was that ward there, and they instead going for a wraparound gank. This time DanDy running all the way down to the bot side. Fly going to try and make an escape, but he's been teleported on.
And Licorice is already there, but Santorin's already in the jungle as well. Madlight flashed over the Dragon Pit wall, but it's going to be the top lane and the jungle from eUnited collapsing on top of him. DanDy picks up a kill on Madlight, but they're separated from the rest of their team. DanDy's going to go down. Licorice is dismounted, and he's going to fall as well. 2 turnaround kills picked up for GCU, but they're not done yet. GBM trying to pull in. The Tides of Blood goes up, but a kickback from Santorin knocks him back into his team. GBM goes down, and now it's just the bot lane duo from eUnited against the entire team of GCU.
A 3-for-0 on the side of Goldcorn United. eUnited starts that one off with the teleport play, and then they get a little split on their focus. Licorice's ultimate locks onto Madlight, who flashes over the wall, and instead of letting him go and trying to collapse on some of the members that were still in the jungle, they're going to go way too hard chasing into that Dragon Pit. So as this starts off, we said DanDy was spotted on the bot side, wraps around trying to get the gank off from the top side. Fly is caught out of position here, and you see the ultimate target Madlight, and instead of wrapping back onto Santorin and Fly, who are caught in the middle of the entire enemy team, Licorice and DanDy go over the wall, chasing that Zyra, and now put themselves in the middle of the enemy team. And while they're able to pick up that first kill, now they're stuck in the Dragon Pit. Those two go down. United thinking that they can maybe go aggressive here. GBM does find a really nice ultimate on multiple members, but just just a little too squishy, not quite strong enough yet, not at that proto belt. He gets dropped as there are so many members of GoldCoin United low, but not quite able to do it, and this could start putting Cassidy over that edge, having completed his Rod of Ages now after getting a kill and 2 assists.
Yep, it's also got 4 stacks on that Dark Seal and a pair of boots to match that, but GBM gone back, picked up the proto belt off of that. We saw Santorin barely living with a sliver of health through the Ignite from GBM, but now they're going to be targeting down the Fly. DanDy is here, the Cocoon winds up missing. Fly's going to wind up running to the waiting arms of the rest of his team, coming up from the bot side of the map. Santorin and Madlife have roamed up to support him there.
Madlife and Rikara having pressure for the most part in this bot lane the entire game. And now they're moving up in the jungle together, trying to find some pickoffs, getting a lot of deep vision. At some point, they're going to try and roam down and make this kind of global play. There's no teleports available, but they do have the Cassidy, who is much more mobile, able to hop over walls and make a short beeline path to this bot turret. And eUnited senses that pressure, senses the bot vision control, and they're going to have to give this turret up now. Yeah,
well, we mentioned the fact that one of the strengths of GoldCoin United was the warding synergy between Santorin and Madlife, and that still seems to be a very strong suit for them. So they're going to want to get the first tower gold in this game, taking down that bot lane, giving all the solo gold to Rikara. But as we saw on the top side, eUnited are not going to just sit back and wait for this to happen. They're going to try to trade it off by having DanDy starting to solo that Rift Herald, while Santorin is going to solo himself an Ocean Drake. So it's still going to be a 2 objective for 1 trade in favor of GoldCoin United.
Lots of objective trading, but overall the right decision. You're not really going to be able to make a opening to get to that turret and defend it, and even if you do, it's still going to get lower and lower and lower, still getting chipped down. So instead, they kind of ditch it. DanDy paths up to the top side, grabs that Rift Herald, wants to find an opening for it. Potentially in the mid or top lane are the most likely ones that he's going to be looking for, but then no rush right now. You have that buff for a little bit before you decide where you want to drop it.
And that kind of puts a little bit of the pressure onto eUnited. Not necessarily pressure to do something, but they have the Rift Herald, so they are going to be the ones that want to try to make a proactive play. GoldCoin United, on the other hand, we talked about, sometimes they struggled in the early game. They weren't as proactive or as lane dominant as we thought they would be. They didn't go around just crushing people during lane phase and getting early game advantages. They kind of waited until the 15 to 20 minute mark to really get going. Now that they have an advantage, our question is normally how do they transition this? It looks like now that they have kind of a little bit of a wait pattern now. They wait for that Rift Herald to get summoned. They see where the lanes are going to be assigned and try to attack whatever lane that eUnited offsets.
And for the most part, it's going to be on the back of Santorin and Madlife. We talked about their synergy previously, still here in the new split. And you already see a lot of the action hinging on where these two go. Even that fight at Dragon was off the fact that Santorin and Madlife were pathing to try and cut off that teleport play. And eUnited selected the wrong targets to go after here. Once again, moving in for bot vision control. And this is where they have their pressure, and this is where they want to keep pushing it. It's hard to make a play up on that top side, where Licorice is handling solo 1v1 a little bit. And eventually, they either want to bring their bot lane up to Fly to pressure GBM on Vladimir, who's not great at line wave clear in a siege situation, so they can look for that. Or they can keep trying to push in this bot lane, find vision for Fly to make his way down to the bot side and hopefully get onto Deathly.
Yeah, and they still have Rikara's Ash Arrow to wind up catching somebody out of position if they're trying to de-ward the jungle or just trying to move forward in pressure on the map from the side of eUnited. So GoldCoin United, very strong setup, and now I can kind of see why Santorin was saying that he really wants to face up against DanDy. Oh, but a flash forward from GBM on the Madlight, the Hemoblake, and the Igniter there, and that's just going to be a solo kill for GBM.
That's what we're saying about Vladimir, is you think he's this passive laning farm champion for a little bit, but as soon as he gets that proto belt, the openings start coming out of nowhere there. Madlife walks slightly too far forward. He gets blown up by his ex-opponent in the LCK, GBM.
Whew. Well, you can ward up the bottom lane jungle all you want, but I guess Madlife did not see that one coming. GBM picking up a much-needed kill for the side of eUnited to get some more traction in this mid lane, specifically in the counter matchup against this Cassidy. He's probably going to have to be the one that deals with Cassidy if he wants to get into a split push kind of scenario here. It's Fly continuing to put pressure down on the mid lane.
And that's what we talk about with Vladimir being one of those champions who wants to stay even or ahead of the game. Some things can play okay from behind, something like a Varus. It's okay if you fall behind, you wave clear, you farm with your Q. Vladimir, one of those champions who needs to dive backline and be able to blow people like Madlife up. And if this game kept going in GCU's favor after grabbing that first turret gold, you start potentially falling out of the game, but that great solo kill going to keep him relevant now as he's able to complete a couple more items, getting that Spectre's Cowl down.
Meanwhile, Licorice and Solo on the top side of the map continuing to trade blows back and forth, despite the first blood being picked up for DanDy with the assist going over to Licorice on the top side. not all too much has really happened in this Kled versus Gragas matchup. We see a Black Cleaver completed for the Kled in addition to his Tiamat. He got extremely early on, but we saw the Gragas going for the standard kind of triple Doran's Ring into tanky items, the Ninja Tabby being picked up. Now the Sunfire Cape means he's got a giant effective health pool this Kled's going to have difficulty cutting through.
Licorice will be able to keep doing it, though, slowly over time, given the fact that he now has that little bit of shred. Solo very tanky. Most of them focused on wave clear duties. Not 100% sure where everyone's playing around necessarily. And you see the mid laners, we talk about this 1-3-1 setup, now move down to the bot lane after they completed a couple items. And DanDy had the Rift Herald starting to time out, had not really found an opening to use it. Going to drop it now in the mid lane, but GCU's all over it. Going to be hard pressed to find an advantage with this objective. Going to go slightly to waste.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different look at the 1-3-1, the 1-3 Rift Herald 1 versus the 1-3-1 setup, but GCU at an advantageous spot in this game. We're just going to be able to focus that one down, and this may be one of the saddest Rift Heralds I think I've ever seen since it's been changed.
I've seen some sad Rift Heralds. Most notably the one where they just dropped in the top lane to go alone. I forget who was against in the LCS, but they just killed the Rift Herald who was topsided with the 80 carry. They tried to siege 5 mid, 4v5. It was ugly. It was ugly, Tom. I've somewhat suppressed it. I can't even remember the teams.
I like that was a Dignitas versus Envy game.
I'm
I'm just bringing out the bad memories for you.
Let it go, Tom.
That's okay. We now have this as our new memory for a bad example of the Rift Herald usage, although it was going to timeout, so it wasn't like they planned on using it that way.
For sure. And you say maybe there would have been a better timing after they got that pick off in the mid lane with GBM. eUnited showing that there's still room to improve early on in the Challenger Series. These guys have not been together super long, as well as the fact that there have been some major patch changes from when these guys really last played competitively together. So both teams having to get used to all these changes.
Well, so far, things that have not changed for both of these teams is a little bit of a stagnation in the early to mid game. Now they're at about 20 minutes in, and Infernal Drake is going to be the next big objective that really spawns on the map. Of course, Baron is still alive, a little bit too early to take that one, but the Infernal Drake will really be the focus here. GoldCoin has been hankering down on all of this vision control in the bottom side jungle from eUnited, so they will be the ones that are able to set up vision control around the Dragon Pit first, and now the core unit of Madlife and Santorin continue to invade deep into the opposing jungle, clear out this vision, and try to just create an opportunity for themselves to take this objective based off of pure vision control, or maybe even a pick in this mid lane.
And that's the thing. Where we talk about both these teams having 1-3-1 setups and stuff, they're also both good team fighters. This is not a Fiora in the top lane, something that just wants to split for eternity until she ends the game herself. Kled is fine getting involved, teleport flank, having that ultimate to just find targets, even sometimes going straight up the middle, able to speed up everyone behind him. So eUnited has a lot of openings potentially. DanDy almost gets caught out there by the Zyra. You talk about that vision control playing into the pick style that these teams can look for. Obviously, some great chain CC if Madlife can land a root into Ash Arrow and maybe a Lee Sin kick.
I mean, it's Madlife. If that was a hook, you would have hit it. Because it's a root, Dandy's able to just duck out on that.
Somehow line skill shots are totally different.
Completely different. I mean, one of them is a hook and one of them is plant roots. I mean, come on.
I mean, to be fair, he was also pretty crazy on things like Lulu and other supportive style champions. There's that famous clip of him knocking someone out of a Thresh Lantern with his own ultimate. Some really highlight plays out of Madlife. Zyra a little bit less flashy, but he's able to get the job done still, zoning away a lot of eUnited from being able to contest this dragon. They're going to completely give it up, focus more on clearing out waves, and GoldCoin slowly grinding eUnited out of this one.
That's what happens when you can't necessarily see where you're going to be going, so GoldCoin able to take that objective pretty much for free. Although it is not increasing their gold lead, it will generate huge advantages for them, adding the percentage of AP and AD onto the rest of their team. As you mentioned, slowly grinding down on what eUnited is going to be doing in this matchup so far. It also puts their scaling Kassadin, who will be split pushing on the bottom side of the map now that he has almost half of his Rod of Ages stacks charged up against this Kled that it looks like eUnited is going to be sending down to the bottom side.
Only going to keep trying to move each other around. You saw Gragas had just itemized a lot of armor. This time finally picking up his Abyssal Mask now, recently renamed. So he has a little bit of MR, but he's obviously still a lot heavily itemized towards armor. So if you can get the Vladimir versus him, he's going to be good in that matchup. Licorice will be doing decent against Kassadin, has a strong all-in threat, kind of sticky, but Kassadin's pretty strong. So you're going to see potentially both teams moving their side laners around, trying to find small advantages where they can. And in the meantime, the junglers and support's going to be teaming up around the mid lane, but it seems like that pre-existing synergy of Santorin and Madlife has been getting the better on eUnited.
All right, this is where this playstyle of GoldCoin is a little bit more superior to what eUnited is trying to be doing with DanDy. We saw DanDy and Santorin have a different approach to the way they're playing this one. Normally you think Elise and Lee Sin both going to be extremely aggressive junglers. They split the map up in the early game, and they play things a little bit differently. I see you.
I'm smiling because Santorin he's playing Lee Sin, but he's still Santorin. So there's different looks to Lee Sin. The Meteos Lee Sin that you sometimes hear about, where you're a lot more about using your mobility and skirmish potential to track the enemy jungler and try and hold them down in their playmaking themselves, which is a totally viable strategy. It's just not necessarily what you always expect when you see a Lee Sin, because you think crazy ganking and invading, and it's more about control style Lee Sin.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I guess Santorin was so excited to play against DanDy. We heard him just at the beginning of this matchup saying that he was really looking forward to playing against DanDy, and we see the clash of those styles. Santorin all about tracking where DanDy is and where he is not, making sure that his lanes are safe and that DanDy's going to be shut down. DanDy went for those early mobility boots on Elise off of his first blood. He was able to pick up one kill in a team fight around the Dragon Pit, but he hasn't really been able to get a lot of traction going since then because of this ward vision, this ward control being put down by GCU.
And Elise a little bit faster of a farmer than Santorin or Lee Sin as well, so no surprise to see him with that small advantage here. GCU tries to pull the trigger mid lane, a little telegraph, but that's the thing is you are fine throwing out the Ash arrows. Actually,
yeah, be careful though, if GBM's going to be coming over the wall there. Flash and the Proto Bell after. It looks like the teleport wound up being canceled there by Fly. A charge coming in from Licorice's Kled. It looks like now that eUnited, after they've disengaged from that fight and re-engaged a little bit, they want to be trying to fight themselves now. Solo kind of caught off on the opposite side from the rest of his team. GoKuin United are trying to get to their tanky Gragas. He flashes away, uses the explosive catch to keep himself alive, but now GBM's been caught out on the opposite side. Looks like he's going to get ignited up by Mad Life, but he will be A-okay for now. Licorice, though, is going to get blown up. He did get dismounted, but he will remount as Santorin comes in. GBM's going to get rooted as he tries to come in, but pulls through the Stranglethorns, but Fly has now arrived. The exhaust is worn off of him, and with everybody's health bar so low after all of that fighting, nobody dies.
That's what happens when you have a lot of slippery champions in the game. Licorice gets extremely low, gets the remount. GBM can heal a lot and go untargetable with his pool. And similarly, Fly has a lot of mobility, jumps in there. It seems like he's overextended, but he didn't have to use his flash to get in there. He uses that to get out. And at the end of the day, everyone walks away. No deaths. GCU able to hold on to this mid lane turret. And a very crazy, scrappy skirmish in the mid lane.
Yeah, and that was all started off the back of GoKuin United finally trying to pull the trigger. They had the Ash arrow that they fire. They try to catch somebody out in the mid lane, and then things kind of get turned around. And now we'll have to see. That fight had lasted so long that now the Ash arrow is going to be coming back off of cooldown. So we could just see GCU recall, move back to the mid lane, and try to rinse and repeat on that catch that they started off here.
And it was a good look. You're fine trading summoners if you're getting the ultimate or the flash for the Ash arrow. I like GBM's flank on the side, getting over the wall, pressuring, definitely almost killing him, and that buys them time to try and pressure around this mid turret. But they find Solo off on the side, and they tunnel on trying to finish him off. They have some good chain CC, but once Solo flashes away, is able to get Licorice off of them. GBM was caught out a little bit in the mid lane. He starts getting chunked out, and now there's multiple fights happening on different fronts for the side of eUnited. Licorice starts getting low. Barely able to get this remount just in time as Santorin is mid-air, jumps back onto Skarl, gets that health pool back, able to keep him alive, and then Fly was pulled out as we come back, and Santorin's now caught.
Ooh, yeah, well actually he looks like he was catching DanDy out in his own jungle here.
Nice
Fly's
repel.
going to go over the wall, but the repel to dodge out the damage. Zazel's here to give him the shield, and now Fly, he's caught outside his enemy base here.
All right, let's see how slippery you are, Casson. You got 5 men around you.
All right, well, he goes forward. He winds up finding Zazel. A flash over the wall from DanDy. The cocoon stun will land, and GBM and Deathly are there to finish off the kill.
He's slippery, but not that slippery. eUnited able to find Fly, who extended a little bit too far. The kick by Santorin dropped DanDy low. If he was able to follow up and get another combo off, he definitely would have got the kill, but DanDy repels the Rift Walk damage, which isn't super high anyways, and then while he's in the air, it buys time for the rest of eUnited to cut off GCU. And now, with the mid laner down, eUnited is going to try and rush this Baron. Still a lot of options available for GCU. They have every other ultimate available but Santorin's kick.
Yeah, it looks like eUnited might be using this one as a bait. The Kled charge is available. Everybody's ultimate is pretty much up. The explosive catch gets used. The charge is there onto Solo. DanDy trying to land a cocoon will wind up finding the Gragas. Virus still has his Chain of Corruption available. Desirous Stranglethorns go down, and there's the Chain of Corruption. They lock up on the Gragas. He's super tanky, but he will go down. GBM, meanwhile, Protobelts into the backline, forces GCU back. They pick up another kill on the side of eUnited.
Good restraint shown out of eUnited there, not hard committing to the Dragon. And a bit of a brute force, but that's what their comp is able to do. They have a lot of go buttons. The Karma can speed everyone up. Licorice as well. We talk about how Kled is great from the flank, can also just be used to charge right up the middle and speed his team up. He gets Varus in range to lock down the tank of Solo. They burn him down, and After that, a little too low to go back on the Baron, so they settle for the Ocean Dragon instead. Take another look at this one, and I like the way both teams playing. Solo just uses ultimate to mess with people and try and disengage, but it puts them a little bit too far forward. I don't think he wanted to split it quite like that, and then Licorice is able to speed up. Definitely, you see, just getting in range there to follow up with a chain CC onto Solo. So great Kled usage there, even though he didn't get the furthest charge you've ever seen. It was enough to speed up the rest of his backline, which had just been separated by the Gragas ultimate.
Right, they're able to collapse down on top of the Gragas. It was one of those situations where eUnited was pretty much like, we're not going to wind up finishing this Baron, but if they don't contest us, we get it for free. Gold United's kind of like, they can't do this. Like, we can just poke them off of it. But the Kled charge being able to go through the explosive cast, and like you said, speed up the rest of his team to catch up, which is really good usage. And although Goldcoin United still stopped the Baron, they only lose one member. Now eUnited were able to reset, get that bottom lane tower down in addition to the Ocean Dragon. They're first for themselves, but now Solo buying time for Fly to kind of come in here and try to take down Licorice. Taking a lot of damage and a lot of time here. Licorice looks like he might eventually go down. Flashes away, does use the pocket pistol, cannot remount in time. Fly is going to Rift Walk after for the kill.
Licorice almost able to get the remount there. If he does, he might be able to turn it back onto Fly. In this case, not quite able to do so. They pick off Licorice. Solo still has his teleport, so they're able to pressure up 3v4 a little bit around this mid lane. They grab their last outer turret. Get that gold lead back up to about 1,500 now as Solo continues pushing down the bot side. Fly is recalled and reset.
And that's just the power of having the casted in a split push matchup as opposed to the Vladimir, because while Vladimir doesn't have teleport, Castin has the Rift Walk to move around. Castin, a lot more single target damage, a lot more pressure at pushing towers as well. So while Vladimir's on the top side to respond, lose a chain corruption and a cocoon mix in the mid lane, they weren't able to get the same amount of pressure down on the opposite side of the map, because Vladimir throwing blood at towers does not deal a lot of damage.
That was very close. If either of those CCs hit, you see GBM off the flank, you would have come flying in over the wall, has the Protobelt and the Flash available. Probably would have been able to find some kills. But since both those CCs don't connect, GCU back away safe.
So eUnited now, without some of their own engaged tools, as the Chain of Corruption is down. Licorice, however, has respawn, has his charge still available. Goldcoin United have been able to kind of reset the map a little bit. They're taking down that mid lane tower, so they have all three outer towers down on their side. So vision control has been the name of their game so far. They've got all the outer towers out to start pushing in and putting down more forward pressure, forward vision control, and trying to contest these inner towers against eUnited.
And you see it's getting a little hard for Fly to deal with GBM at this point. Just Vladimir doesn't necessarily outscale, but he does outsustain in the side lane. So Fly has to repeatedly trade very aggressive to avoid letting GBM sustain off a the minion wave or anything like that. Because if he does, he'll start getting forced out of lane. If he trades aggressively, he might be able to hold him. But otherwise, it's going to go in GBM's favor.
And you already see on the bottom side now, Licorice has gone back, picked up a Guardian Angel for himself, so a little bit more damage on that item now. In addition to the Titanic Hydra and the Black Cleaver. A lot of tankiness on the side.
In case you missed it, that is a Guardian Angel. It does look a little different now, given the fact that it has AD. They felt like maybe it should look like a weapon as opposed to a vest. So it makes a little bit of sense.
Same thing with the Abyssal Mask, which is just the Abyssal Scepter. What a new fancy icon. It makes a lot more sense now.
And a new name. Yeah. Guardian Angel did not receive a new name.
Just did not.
Just new image.
That's true. The Abyssal Scepter, holding a staff, potentially not the most protective item, unless you're a wizard.
It could also be protective as well.
Yeah.
Unlike a chain vest, you can't really make that aggressive. Like,
have you ever been slapped with a chain vest?
You get body slammed, that would hurt.
Maybe that's why it was a tank item in the first place. But now we see GBM and Fly just going toe-to-toe on the top lane. The Ignite actually going down on the Fly, but Santorin's joined up with this one. Both teleports are being channeled. GBM's buying so much time. He saves the pool for the absolute last second, but Fly's going to trade his life for that of GBM. Everybody has kind of joined the fray on the top lane, and it's gone a little haywire. Santorin barely makes that alive. Licorice is going to get dismounted. That Guardian Angel sword or vest will get popped. eUnited looked to potentially turn that gank around, but wound up losing 2 for the price of 1.
And that's what we're talking about, the fact that Fly does have that all-in potential onto the Vladimir, doesn't have a way to really cut the healing, so it's still a little difficult, but Santorin able to back him up, gets to that fight first, as it's still Mad Life gets blown up once again, trying to get some vision control set up for a potential Baron. DanDy waiting in the wings for him. He blows him up, deters any potential objective gain after that fight that went in GCU's favor in the top side.
Yeah, that winds up being a 2 for 2, so with Mad Life down now, that means that Goldcoin United, despite getting advantages on the top side, lose the threat around the Baron pit. They were able to put a couple of wards down, but not quite. And this all started off from the fact that this fight in the top lane looked like it was just between 2 people, but soon everybody showed up.
That's the thing is, so both these champions in their split pushing have different advantages. Cassin is a lot stickier and more evasive in the side lane, whereas Vladimir has the sustained advantage. He opens up on the GBM, has the follow-up, walks a little bit too far away here. Should have been more in range to get a better follow-up. Small misplay by Fly, but he's able to get the all-in finish. DanDy shows up there to get the trade kill, and then it's just the fact that the bot lane of GoldCoin United was able to get in range first, pops a heal, able to keep him alive, and DanDy has a hard time getting involved. Kind of leaves Licorice alone on an island. He's going to go down. Even though his GA brings them back up, he gets dropped right after.
You see the Ash Hour flying out just a half second too early to lock him up, but didn't matter because Licorice winds up going down either way. But despite after all that, we saw Mad Life getting caught off, so it was still a 2-for-2 trade, and that still means the gold counts are relatively even. 34 minutes into this game, there's only been 13 kills. This has kind of been a little, I would say, a typical GCU game from last split.
Definitely a little slower in the early game than it should have been, but now that we've crested into the mid and late game, people are starting to make more stuff happen. The map's more opened up, and like we said, a lot of mobility, a lot of engage tools. People keep trying to find their openings. This time, Solo kind of caught off by himself, surrounded by eUnited. Might try and either run away or turn this slowly back as the rest of his team's collapsing. Looking like he's prioritizing trying to run away instead.
Yeah, the rest of eUnited, they're being a little bit careful. They're going to try to catch up the remaining members of GCU trying to meet up with Solos. Licorice pops the charge, but the team is a little bit far behind him. Now Licorice going to get turned on to. Does keep his health bar healthy enough that he will not dismount from Skarl. But Solo's still on the opposite side. In the meantime, they're just buying a lot of time for Fly, who's already split pushed down the bottom lane tower. Licorice got to cancel his recall.
Yeah, we talk about the fact GCU also has the teleport advantage so that they can group up Solo if they need to. Licorice follows, and then GBM nor Licorice can match Fly in the bot lane with that teleport advantage. And with that Lich Bane completed, he actually does a lot of damage to turrets, able to take the inhibitor turret 35 minutes into the game. 2
towers taken with barely any response from eUnited besides maybe the Scuttle Crab they took around the Baron Pit area, but they're going to lose all of that vision control as well. Even the Scuttle Crab will expire as GoldCoin United sweep in. And you mentioned the gold was even. Now it's slightly in favor of GoldCoin United. They've gotten some global gold on their side by taking down those 2 towers. And now they're looking to be in a little bit more of a position. They can threaten an open inhibitor with that double teleport advantage.
GCU have a lot of options available to them now as the teleports are getting close to coming back up. Licorice wants to potentially find an opening on the Fly, but you can see some tricky plays now where Solo can make his way down to Fly, who's in the bot lane, or you can have Fly in the mid lane grouped up with his team helping push, and then rotate down to the bot side, try and find a pick on the Licorice and get the inhibitor. GCU no longer really needs to play around the Baron buff at all from this point on, which, like we said, has been the bane of a couple challenger teams so far.
We definitely saw in all of those highlights coming into the show that the Baron Pit was kind of the make or break deal for a lot of the teams yesterday during the games, although this time around it still seems to be a bit of a hotbed of action, as we've seen both eUnited and GoldCoin United picking up kills on their respective opponents in that area. The top lane, though, has also kind of been a little bit of an interesting spot. They continue from the side of eUnited to try to chip away at that top lane outer tower. GBM's pretty much been doing it by himself ever since the lane phase.
He got sick of it. He's like, DanDy, come help me.
Yeah, DanDy's come on over, and they finally take down the 2nd tower of the game, but there's still 5 on the side of GoldCoin United they have to answer for.
Which is surprising given the fact that they are only about 1.5 thousand gold behind. They have a lot to make up in these objectives. They can catch with the turrets if they start finding a way to open these up, but they've kind of been on the back foot for a little while, ever since that one missed team fight around the Dragon Pit so long ago. GCU, for the most part, has had the inside track on whatever objective they're looking for.
Yeah, they've also been able to get themselves a couple extra Drakes, and the Cloud Drake is spawned on the map. As soon as we take that one down, there will be an Elder Dragon that's available on the map. And we'll see if it's going to be GoldCoin United trying to clear that objective and get one of those bigger prizes on the map in the form of the Elder Dragon. United, though, they're content to kind of just match where GCU is going to be going on the split push. And the GCU at this point in time are just content to move that, like you mentioned, move that Cassin around the map. They don't have to pressure around Baron. They can send Cassin to an opposite side of the Gragas. They can roam around and pick people out of position. One of the things that they don't have as established as they did, say, about the 20-minute mark, though, was the vision control in eUnited's jungle. eUnited, since then, has been doing a good job of clearing the vision out.
GCU has definitely struggled a little bit in the last couple minutes. The teleport's back available, but they still have Gragas playing around that top side. It's not really ideal because he can't stop and get pressure on the Vladimir 1v1. The fact that eUnited's still fighting pretty hard over vision around the Baron Pit means it's hard for him to push up even if he was able to. So he's not accomplishing much in the side lane. Like I said, I'd much rather see him grouped up with the 4-man core and then potentially threatening come down to Castlin, or put the Gragas down there versus the Kled and have the Castlin roam, having a little bit easier map mobility with his Driftwalk.
Looks like they want to put the cast in on the open inhibitor, but a teleport's being channeled now by the side of eUnited. They might be looking for
long way to go.
Ultimate charge. He's going to wind up going in. Are they going to catch down to Santorin or Ricard? It looks like the charge range will not be long enough. So eUnited try to make a play happen. But they're not
on the plate now. They get Deathly.
They do want to catching on the Deathly, but he is going to be able to QSS that one away. Gold United now have a GBM on Santorin and Solo. It looks like there's going to be a bit of a split fight as Flies come on the backside here. Pops the Zunya's Hourglass to avoid the damage coming out from Varus. Solo's taking up as much damage as possible. GBM is sustained tanking on that side as well. Flies trying to 2v1 the backline of eUnited and the other side of this fight. And Ricard's just walking in the middle of everybody trying to get some damage down. Flashes away from the Vladimir trying to pop him down.
Fly
but
drop.
Deathly has popped Fly. Now Solo's going to fall, and eUnited with the superior team fight comp, as weird as that fight was, winds up picking up 2 for none.
Almost well played by Fly there. He was zoning around the backside of Deathly and Zeyzal, tumbled a little bit on Zeyzal, not able to finish him off. And then after he goes down, the rest of the bot lane from eUnited is able to join up with the front line. I need to take another look at that fight to know exactly what they could have done differently to try to win that one for GCU. They disengaged the initial attempt very well. The Kled ultimate did not find a target, and then they re-engage with the Ash Arrow onto Deathly. They get that QSS out early, or the Mikhail, excuse me, and you think from there that should be favorable, but they did not ever really find a single target to lock down on, and now eUnited with those death timers still on the side of GCU start up this Baron buff.
You got to be careful though. There's 15 seconds on Solo and 10 on Fly, and they both have teleport available, so they need to burn this one down pretty quick, and it looks like they will be able to. Santorin might just be looking for a bit of a miracle steal. Lands the Sonic Wave. Resonating Strike goes in. They're stopping damage on there, but Santorin's able to steal it away.
Well timed, and you saw the rest of GCU actually helped him drop that one a little low. It was sitting around 1,800 health, and I'm pretty sure you saw Mad Life drop some damage in there. Ricaro as well, trying to help burst it down low enough to get in smite range of Santorin, who's able to give his life up and stall this game out a little bit more. We'll start things off, though, going way back to that initial team fight. That engage, flubbing on the side of eUnited, and it looks like this is a good spot where Solo has all these guys backed away, and once this arrow lands on the Deathly, a little too slow getting that Gragas ultimate over the top. Deathly gets QSS and gets on the other side of it, gets knocked back, and now Fly zoning around the back line, but they have no damage onto the Vladimir, who's very happy dealing with a tanky jungler and top laner. Ricaro tries to get involved, but it's too risky to walk around that path, and he just is unable to really get involved anywhere in the fight. Here, Fly could potentially try and stop messing around with his backline and hop back into the wall near the Raptor pit. Doesn't go for that. Gets a little too greedy, switching targets onto Zeyzal. He gets dropped, and this whole time on the other side, you saw it was GBM tanking the two members of GCU before they start looking at this Baron buff. Speed up a little bit now.
Yeah, this is actually eUnited getting a bunch of recalls down before even rushing back towards the Baron buff here. So GCU was able to put a little bit of vision control down and around this Baron pit area, but eUnited knew that with the respawn timers and the teleports available from GCU, they needed to make something happen quick, but Santorin was able to steal that Baron away, and now it looks like GCU are on the offensive. We see the Ash Hour landing onto Zeyzal. Santorin maybe biting off a little bit more than he can chew. Does wind up safeguarding away over to Mad Life, keep himself alive.
Able to bait out the ultimate of Deathly, though. Not quite what you would obviously want. With that Baron buff.
It's an engage tool for eUnited.
It is an engage tool down. You get chunked up. He has to go farm some honey fruit in the river, heal back up. It's good that he doesn't have to get a full reset off because they do still have this Baron buff on multiple members, and they want to pressure with it. Actually grab that bottom inhibitor and make the rest of the game a lot easier to play out. GBM, like we said, doing a good job stalling out in that lane versus Solo. Wondering if these lane setups are exactly what you want or not.
We saw Cloud Drake going over to the side of GCU while we were in that replay as well. eUnited, though, we saw that they do have the ability to win a fight, even if GCU is the one that is able to turn it around on them. Definitely with that Maul of the Malmortius is one of the big reasons why he's able to stay alive against Fly. Once you want to get in that passive proc, he healed up so much, and now Fly getting a lot of damage done to him here by Licorice on this Kled. Now picked up a Maul of the Malmortius for himself, forcing Fly back away from that bot lane.
Bear trap on a rope, just barely missed. If that connects, he might be able to find the kill. During this time, Santorin and Solo want to pressure up on the top side, but eUnited rotates up in time. Fly heals up, teleports back in, wants to open up onto this inhibitor. And Licorice has not healed yet.
They want to get something done while they have this Baron buff available. And actually, Licorice continuing the joust after. Does get dismounted from Skarl. The pocket pistol's there. Looks like the redemption will land, and Fly's going to get collapsed on by DanDy as well, but it will be the kill going over to Licorice.
I didn't think these lane setups were right initially. Now I know for a fact you do not want to put Fly versus Licorice, able to win that 1v1 2 times in a row, also getting the teleport out. Didn't even need to heal up. DanDy did come in to help him out, but at that point, he had basically already won the fight for himself. Well played by Licorice, showing why he got that rank 1 in North America.
And Licorice being able to say that this Kled was 0, 3, and 3 at one point. Now 2, 3, and 4. So coming into his own as we get into the later stages of this game. Baron buff's going to expire on the side of GCU. Just a couple of seconds left, and eUnited are now grouped up as a full force of 4 with Kled in the bottom side of the map as they are trying to look at taking down the last outer tower on the map because they still have this first ring of towers to crack from GCU's side.
Yeah, like we said, eUnited has a lot of gold available to try and get back into this game. Fly not up for 10 more seconds, and then doesn't have that teleport to get involved quickly either. They finally grab the mid lane outer turret. Such an important objective in the game. Frees up a lot of map movements for your team, and during this whole time, Licorice working way down this bot in their turret as well.
So Licorice gets his own little split push game going on. As you mentioned, Fly now on the respawn with this Cassidy. Might not be the one they want to send to match up against the Kled. eUnited, though, with their 4 members strong still in the mid lane, are looking to potentially push down into this tier 2 tower, but they will catch on the Licorice using both of their global plays here with the Cassidy and the Gragas. He will wind up getting popped and dismounted as DanDy gets knocked back into the fray as Rakara picks up a kill. Guardian Angel will proc down onto Licorice. He winds up getting the remounts off, and he's trying to stay alive, but he will dismount once again. He tries to get to the rest of his team as GBM flashes into the backline, but he's going to get rooted up. He's going to get ignited, and he's going to barely survive. Heals himself back up almost a full off of that Hemo Plague, and now it's him and Definitely turning this fight around. They burst down on the fly. GBM still had the Zanya's Hourglass available, so despite taking 2 down from eUnited, GCU have to turn tail and run.
And this is the story of GBM in his time in Korea, was being a monster late game team fighter. That fight started horribly on the side of eUnited with Licorice getting chunked out, blasted into the team for DanDy as well. Those guys drop quickly, but as soon as everyone's grouped up, GBM shows he knows exactly what he can do on this Vladimir pick. Goes flying in there, huge ultimate, gets extremely low, but once that finally pops on all the targets, he heals up almost to full. And never felt like he needed to use his Zanyas either until the end, so basically turned that whole fight for his team. Unfortunately, off all that, didn't actually pick up any kills.
No, he got 0 kills, but he didn't wind up dying. He didn't wind up losing out on the fact that he's basically stopped GCU from being able to do anything off of picking off 2 of his teammates in that entire fight. And I'm so a little flabbergasted at the fact that he didn't want it going down. There was Ignite on him at the same time, and he still healed that much up because of the 5-man Hemo Plague he hit.
Pretty strong ability. I mean, that's why you usually see people get like 3-man Hemo Plagues. You're like, wow, what a big ultimate. You get that many members with that ultimate on, it's going to be pretty disastrous in the team fight. Also able to drop his Tides of Blood. A lot of healing coming in with his transfusion as well. So GBM getting pretty terrifying in these late game team fights. Yeah. eUnited has, for the most part, actually been playing better than GCU if you don't count that Baron steal. They won the fight, they lose the Baron, and then they win the 1v1 split pushes on both sides, and then they almost win that team fight after GCU starts out with a couple picks. So eUnited's 5v5 looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, we mentioned a little bit after Champ Select into the early stages of this game that eUnited might be the ones that looking to have a bit more of a better of a 5v5 team fight comp, where GCU might be looking to split push and utilize that double teleport advantage. They were utilizing it extremely well for the first 40 or so minutes of this game, but ever since that Baron bait, eUnited has gotten a little bit of a better of them. The gold count almost even up here, just about 1,500 gold in favor of GCU, but as we're at the 47-minute mark, that barely matters whatsoever. What really matters now is just kind of who's going to wind up coming out ahead in these fights. I mean, we have a lot of extra gold on Rakara's Ashe. We actually haven't talked about Rakara all too much this game. 3-0 and 3. Kind of playing his part on this entire team. One of the things that we had as a criticism of MASH was the fact that he would oftentimes have very high farm scores, have a decent amount of damage, but necessarily wasn't grouping up with the team and wasn't that kind of utility player that they needed him to be in team fights. Rakara at this point, 513 CS, 3-0 and 3, a part of 6 of his team's 8 kills. Looking pretty good.
And that's the thing about Nash players. Actually, we see Solo getting caught out in this river a little bit.
Yeah, Chain of Corruption landing onto Solo. Going to use his own explosive cast ultimate to kind of bounce that one out here at eUnited. Looks to charge forward. These fights have been a little prolonged, but both these teams decide to disengage early from that.
Just coming back to that Rakara point, if you're playing Ashe well, for the most part, you are not getting noticed, assuming your team is not relying on you to be the hard carry that game. Filling it mostly with ultimates and good positional team fighting, not getting caught out. Sometimes having a little bit of a struggle getting involved and finding a way to damage some people, but a lot of that also just due to the angle that his team is taking. In this game right now, though, eUnited has control of this river, but they don't have control of the mid wave. They're going to have to wrap back around here as GCU kind of starts running down mid. Going to be able to grab this inner turret, and it's a question of how much more they can get off of it.
Yeah, so there's also that bottom lane inhibitor, that there's a giant wave being stacked up here for GCU. They could rotate down to that and just take the open inhibitor pretty much for free. United have to be very careful about backing away to defend against this one, but it looks like they will take the longer, safer path through their own jungle, and they will be able to defend, but they do lose that mid lane inner tower, and now that gives GCU all the time in the world to deward this Baron Pit area and continue to dominate in the vision game.
And that is why mid priority is so important in the late game. Just off that fact that eUnited did not decide to clear that wave, they lost the turret. And here, almost getting caught out of position, giving up that vision control around the Baron buff, not exactly sure where GCU was. And here you see GCU once again aggressively pushing and grabbing the minion wave first in the mid lane, showing that they have a good understanding of the late game macro in terms of what they want to do. GCU trying to cut the minion waves themselves.
We did see that Ashar just barely tickling the backside of Zazel. Now it looks like the United were kind of motioning down towards the Elder Dragon. This time around, GCU just continued to threaten to push up that mid lane, and now they back way back towards the Baron Pit area. Licorice getting chunked out there by Fly. Chain of Corruption lands that onto Solo. He's tanky though, so it's not going to be a lot of damage onto the Gragas. Licorice, no Guardian Angel available, so if he dies here, it's not going to be a revive, and it's going to be a 4v5 situation. Because of that dismount, there's no charge available for Kled either. He can wind up going back and recalling, utilizing that teleport. That's going to leave 2 teleports still up on the side of GCU. So with Kled away and the teleport needing to be channeled, Gold Coin United are looking to use this opportunity to start up the Baron. Fly is on zoning duty. Gold Coin United get the teleport play, and they're A-okay to back away. And now actually might be looking to collapse on Licorice. His Guardian Angel has popped back up though. Fly knows he can't solo him, so he's got Santorin to help him out on the side, but eUnited are collapsing from the opposite side. Gold Coin United are split in this one. The blast cone over the wall there from Santorin as DanDy flies in the opposite direction. Now they're chasing down into Santorin and Ricard, who've gotten caught out from the rest of their team. Fly is recalling into the base, has teleport available to join up the rest of his team. Licorice now trying to catch down the Mad Light. Ricard has to wind up using the QSS to run away as well. Fly's coming back in with the teleport, but everybody from GCU is caught out by eUnited in the middle of the fray. Vladimir picks up the first kill onto Ricard, so the AD carry is down. They've rooted up onto Solo. A double kill picked up by GBM. Santorin has to run, Fly has to get away, and eUnited somehow come out ahead of that fight.
GBM with another monster team fight. GCU is losing control of themselves when they see these openings. They have so much mobility available in the Kassadin and the Lee Sin that they think they can find a pick, but it leaves the rest of their team out alone, no longer having a great 5-man core. And then once eUnited is able to kind of survive that first pickoff attempt, GBN's able to find these monster engages, drops huge Hemo Plagues, and is able to win the fight for his team. And now with those members down, gonna try and end the game 5v3.
30-second death timer still on Solo, 20 on to Ricard, and it looks like that GCU, without a lot of wave clear on their side, cannot do anything as eUnited relentlessly assault their Nexus towers. And after 51.5 grueling minutes, Gold Coin United will fall. eUnited will resurge and claim victory in Game 1.
eUnited undefeated so far in the Challenger Series. Obviously only up 1 game right now in this best of 3, but a really, really impressive game out of them, given the fact that things did not start that well. We saw GCU was able to, despite, you know, first blood going to eUnited, GCU won that first important skirmish around the Dragon area, and they have control for most of the game. They even were able to take an inhibitor turret just with their split pushing, but every time it came to 5v5 team fighting, GBM showed up huge for the team.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that we noticed throughout this entirety. It was Gold Coin United had really good team communication in the early game. They had a very solid game plan as to what they wanted to do, but when things stalled out to the later stages of the game and that Kassadin split push didn't necessarily work, they were able to take down an inhibitor tower, could never pressure the inhibitor themselves. They tried to get into these 5v5 fights and pick people off with teleport plays, but it didn't wind up working out, and eUnited had a little bit better of a team fight in the end.
Yeah, I think the big problem for GCU there, like we said a couple times during the broadcast, was about their lane setups, and they understood that Kassadin was the strongest member on their team, and so they wanted to put their strongest member the furthest away from the rest of the team to pull more pressure down to him. The problem was that they were still matching it with the Kled, who was fine going up against the Kassadin. If you put the Gragas down there and then roam the Kassadin, and then you have double TP to get back to your 3-man core, there were a couple ideas that they could have gone for, but they just felt fine defaulting to the Gragas top and the Kassadin bottom, which didn't net them any advantages after they abused the teleport advantage that one time.
Yeah, and they tried moving the Gragas and the Kassadin down as a team, but at that point in time, it had been kind of scattered out by what eUnited was going to do to counteract that, and they stayed in a closer lane to where their Kled was going to be so they could collapse into some of these fights. And while while the lane assignments were a bit haphazard from Goldcoin United, the team fights from both sides weren't necessarily as organized as well. Even the last fight that kind of ended that game was a disjointed, crazy fight that lasted pretty much forever, and it wound up coming out ahead for eUnited, despite Goldcoin United kind of being the ones that looked to start it and then got caught out, and then chaos.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we said that they tried to pick the Kled using the Lee Sin and the Kassadin. The rest of the back line for GCU could not get involved. They get grouped up trying to run away, and as they're trying to escape, that leads to a massive ultimate out of GBM here. Fly teleports back into the fight, tries to get onto Zay's, definitely, excuse me, but there's an exhaust waiting for him. He's not able to drop a lot of damage onto the back line, and after that, it's too easy for the rest of eUnited to kind of chase down, and even though they only got those 2 kills, that's all they really need to end the game.
Yeah, and while it wasn't the reason why Goldcoin United lost that fight, it's a little ironic that as we were talking about Ricard being very solid on the Ashe, and the Ashe not being the big carry for the team, the one fight where he dies and gets 1 death in the whole game is the one that they lose the game off of.
To be fair, he really doesn't have that much protection for him. I mean, he's got a Zyra, a Lee Sin, yeah, Gragas maybe to disengage. So if that Vladimir finds an opening to proto belt at your face, you as an Ashe are not going to have a good time. And you know, Ricard for the most part, one of his first games on broadcast here in the Challenger Series looked pretty good. You know, this split, but the rest of the team not actually able to find the openings they needed to win.
No, well, we're going to be headed for a break, but when we come back, we'll see if eUnited can close out the series in first place or if GCU will strike back.